Hello and welcome. I'm Claire Feldman, your host and guide on this journey to thriving in private practice without the burnout. Are you a passionate therapist who's struggling with the entrepreneurial side of things? Do you wish you could serve great fit clients at times that suit you? Are you seeking financial stability so you can continue doing what you love? If so, then you're in the right place. I know firsthand the difficulties of navigating the business aspects of therapy, from building a website to managing social media, but I've made all the mistakes so you don't have to. Together we'll explore how you can build and grow your dream practice. So let's get started. Hi Matt, you are very welcome on the podcast.
Hi Claire, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm very happy to speak.
I am really looking forward to this conversation, and I'm really interested in hearing more of what you have to say about how to demystify finances for therapists, because I think it is something that a lot of people listening are going to be really interested in hearing about. But maybe before we get started, could you tell me just a little bit about yourself and your practice?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. And I'm really looking forward to sharing some of this as well. I'm Matt Vickers. I am a transpersonal integrative psychotherapist. I trained at the CCPE in London. And before that, I worked in finance, chartered accountant, a little geeky, but I have a GCSE, an A-level, a degree, and a professional qualification in finance and accounting, which I don't share too widely as it's not great for my street cred, but I do quite like the grounding that numbers can give me in that. And within my practice, I work with clients around money, but I also work with therapists as well around and in the practice through a financial lens.
Okay, and do you specialise then in your therapy private practice around money issues, or?
I don't actually specialise in it, but I think there's nothing quite like money that shows how we spend our energy and our life force. So it finds its way into a session.
Yeah.
How we spend or don't spend, what we feel if we're holding back or overdoing is the hugely important piece and creates a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious as well. It's quite a transition from kind of getting finance into therapy. What made you make that transition? What led you into this field?
Not a natural step, that one, is it?
Oh, not really.
I've always been interested in psychology, and I've always been interested and good with numbers, and the two kind of ran in parallel. But it was numbers that really took the forefront. Then, of course, at some point in my life, something goes wrong, and I seek therapy. And for me, that was actually a phobia of blood. So I would see blood, sometimes even read about it, and I would pass out and fit. And there's nothing wrong with me physically. It was all emotional. And all the things I tried, nothing helped except psychotherapy. And from that, it really awakened a deep interest in the power of our mind, of our emotions, of our being, and how, if we can look at that, how different life can be. And that's where finances started to go down and psychology went up. So I ran a dual career for a while. I call it a portfolio career, where I would be in finance and a psychotherapist. I think many therapists do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then there became a point where I wanted to bring both worlds together. So I started doing mental health in the workplace, which was hugely rewarding and made so much difference to the culture. And then there's a point where I wanted to do more of that and went on to private practice solely. So it's been a journey.
And are you full-time now in your private practice?
I am, yes. Yeah.
And I imagine your background in finance, because I have a mentorship and I really work with helping therapists with the business and the marketing side of kind of getting set up in private practice, because it's something we're not taught. We don't know what we're doing really. But I imagine for yourself, like having that background must have been incredibly helpful when you then were starting your private practice and opening up. And I'm wondering how your approach maybe to starting your practice and getting set up might have been slightly different from other therapists without your background.
Yeah, it's a great question. And money for me does also have an edge. So when I was growing up, my dad took on a business which failed in the late 80s, and we lost our home. We ended up living with my grandparents, and there was a whole load of emotions that came with that: shame, failure, as well as really enjoying living with grandparents. So when it comes to money, when I came from moving from the finance corporate world, which is a relatively high-paying, stable income, to the world of self-employment as a therapist, which is much more volatile,
Yeah.
brought up a whole load of feelings in me. A load of anxiety and fears, actually, which that way and processed. And one of the things that really grounded me was me starting to look at, well, actually, how much do I need to earn to maintain the lifestyle I've got? And what happens if I don't make that? What decisions do I need to make, which means maybe I don't have that holiday, but I can still survive? If I do make more, what do I do with that? So I started to do what we call in finance sensitivity analysis. And I worked out my baseline of what I needed to earn to manage my lifestyle as it is now. I translated that to how many clients do I need to see a week? And then actually, how much do I need to charge these clients? Wow. So I started to look at all the different numbers, and it quickly becomes clear that as a therapist, you are a finite resource. You only have capacity to see so many clients a week, and that will change. You can only see, say, 20 clients a week, and you're not earning enough based on the fees you had in mind. There's only two things that can change: the fees you charge or the expenses you incur. As a therapist, expenses aren't a huge part of our profit and loss, of our income. So it starts to put a bigger spotlight on the fees we charge.
Yeah.
To get the fees right, to match our experience, our skills, to match our attitude towards money. Do we have an abundance mindset or a poverty mindset? What does that bring up for us? And ultimately, what do we need to afford? What is our lifestyle needs?
Yeah.
Little window into...
Gosh, a little window. That's that window that is opening up there, because I'm thinking about for myself as well. Like have gone through a whole journey around my own money mindset, lack mentality, fear of increasing fees, and thankfully I had a mentor that I worked with that really helped to make overcome a lot of those hurdles. But I'm thinking about like even therapists that I work with now and their approach to money and fee setting and what that looks like. And often what that can look like is staying in this safe zone with what all other therapists are charging, or trying to even be competitive with other therapists' rates and charging less than. And actually what you're describing is the sensitivity analysis, and what we have to do is something very different.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many factors we need to take into account. And as therapists, not often are we trained in finance and business. And we end up getting washed away with the tide, rather than anchoring in our position of what do I need as a therapist? And if we end up taking on too many clients, burn out. We end up charging fees too low. We start to build up a stickiness in the energy, a resentment. Even the best of us will do that. It's not feeling fair. But we have to be anchored in what we need. But from a financial point of view, how do we know what we need?
Yeah. And I'm wondering, in the transition that you made, so you had that balancing between two worlds, which I think a lot of therapists will resonate with, that they're maybe doing completely different careers or doing other work and trying to get built up in their private practice. But obviously that when you're doing the calculations of how many clients do I need to see what rate do I need to charge to match this income that I've had before? That in itself takes time to do. And I'm wondering, did you have any sort of like buffer or savings or like a process that kind of helped with that?
It does, and absolutely. And the first clarification I guess I'd make is we don't always need to match the income we have, or we need to look at what is our essential spend we need to make. Mortgage, food, electric are probably essential for most people beyond it. Then we have things which are important. So time off, nights out, these are important to me to keep me balanced. And then we have the more optional, luxurious holidays, festival tickets, music gigs, football tickets. I'm a football and a music fan. Those become optional. So there's almost a tiering of what do I need to earn. And there's a great phrase, which is knowing the pleasures of life we live in below our means. Most of us live at our means or beyond it.
Yeah.
It's that rat race. We're always chasing more because we've expanded ourselves. And it stops us being in the moment. It stops us being present, mindful. When we live below our means, we have a freedom no other. But we need to know what that is. We do need to know the numbers. So looking at your expenses and having a classification type approach helps you first say, what do I need to have my essential, my important, and my optional? And then you've got a number.
Yeah. And so working that through stages, essentially, that as long as we're meeting, we know we're going to meet our essential needs, we're good. And if we then through time experience growth, we're able to go beyond that, then that's
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's subjective. How I managed the transition is I knew what my essential needs were. I knew I had to meet that number. So before making that leap, I knew how many clients I needed to manage that. I also saved up a buffer because it made me feel comfortable. It made me feel less anxious. It made me feel more brave. And that was my comfort blanket. And I didn't need it, actually, so far. Needed very little of it. But we always may need it at some point. And having that buffer, if we get ill, if something happens in our life and we need time off, we need that buffer in there and having to push through. So having something is important.
Yeah. No, that's really very sensible advice. Very good advice, very sensible advice. And while you're saying that, I'm thinking about for myself and maybe for some of the members within my membership. Well, when it comes to things like tracking, even the word tracking, we're like, God, I fill this with dread. I try to set a routine that every Friday I'm going to track my income, and invariably Friday comes and goes, and the next Friday, yeah, I'm definitely going to do it. Friday comes and goes. So I'm wondering, is there some kind of advice or some kind of way to make that whole process a little bit easier?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And record keeping is really important. And it's not a sexy word. It doesn't fill us with the joys of spring. It's a necessary evil, I think, in some way. But if we don't know what we're earning and what we're spending, then we're living on a wing and a prayer, really, on what we're spending. So it's an essential part of running a business. And we need a process to know how much money we've earned, how much we've spent, and what we call in accounting terms, working capital. How much money is owed to us and how much money we owe to someone else. So how much cash is left to come back in. So it's really important we get a feel for that. And at the same token, we also need to know what are those big costs that are going to come out. Tax, for instance, is unfortunately too big a number, depending on your political views, of course. But we need to save that. We need to have that in mind. And you need a system of tracking it. So what I've done, being a little bit geeky, I do like a spreadsheet, and I've built some infrastructure where once a day, I literally type in how much a client's paid me, how long I've seen them for, whether I'll collect the cash or not, and the date I've seen them. But I've seen 5 clients that day, and it takes me a minute. I then built a macro where I hit a button, and then it would generate for me how much money I've made that month. It tells me. It tells me how much cash I need to collect, which clients haven't paid yet.
Yes.
It tells me how much tax I'm expected to be charged at the end of the year, and therefore how much I should be saving each month to manage that. It tells me my supervision ratios, and it tells me if I'm on track to meet my CPT targets, and also if I need to consider registering for VAT. So I've built this for myself to look at all the things I think a therapist needs to know in order to manage their business. And a few people I've shown it to have said, wow. So I'm starting to offer that out as part of my service as well, either in an ad hoc piece or as part of one-to-one coaching. It's really important we do that. And the process you've just described of this Friday, okay, next Friday, I think we all know that feeling, don't we? We all put off where we don't enjoy. But if it's literally 30 seconds and then you hit a button and it tells you what you've earned this month or what you're going to make, there's a bit of a reward in there.
I was just thinking,
You can know.
as you were saying that, I was thinking, like, why am I dreading it? But it's because I'm seeing it as something that's boring.
Right.
But actually, surely that is something I could see as quite exciting to see. How much money have I brought in? What is my potential for next month? Seeing that as actually a good thing.
Yeah, it empowers you. Actually, I'm on target this month. I'm doing well. I can go to the cinema and feel good about it because I know I've got it in there. And actually, this month, I'm going particularly well. You know what? Maybe I will go and see Foo Fighters or whatever it is. Or alternatively, yeah, I've had a couple of clients leave. This is going to be a tight month. So I'm not going to have takeout. In fact, it's going to be a bit of Netflix and soup for me for the next few weeks until I get myself back on track or whatever. It empowers you to make decisions.
Yeah, that's it. Giving us information. It's given us really important information. So actually, if this month hasn't been so good, maybe clients have moved to fortnightly, maybe some clients have ended. It's giving me this information of, okay, so right now I need to be a little bit leaner with my spending, but also I need to perhaps take some action if I've not been focused on marketing or things like that. How do I then take action to bring in new?
Absolutely. That's the power of it. So I quite enjoy putting that information in a day and hitting that button and going, how am I doing? I know what I want to be doing. I know what I want to be making. Am I on track? Or actually, I've had an unexpected cost. Can I absorb this without going into savings or not? But that point about getting back onto marketing, important, needing to know when to make those decisions. Doing it regular helps you make those decisions in a timely manner. And the timely part's so important for business.
So those key, if you just remind me of what are those key things that you would recommend all therapists, like right from day one of being in private practice, what would be those key things you would want to make sure you're tracking and keeping an eye on?
So the obvious things you need to track is how much you're earning, so the fees you're getting from your clients, how much you're spending. So do you pay room rent or Do you pay supervision? Do you have therapy? And tracking those. And then you've got an income and an expenditure. One less the other is your profit. However, profit is not the same as cash flow. Because if you haven't paid for them, or if people haven't paid you for them, you need to know that as well. So you need to track your cash flow. How much you earn, how much you spend, gives you an idea of what you're earning. And then secondly, you need to track, well, who owes me money and who do I owe money to? Because that money is going to come in or come out of your account, which changes the picture significantly on what you could spend. You spend on those Foo Fighter tickets and you realize you've not paid your supervisor for the last 6 weeks. You've got a generous supervisor. And all of a sudden you've made the wrong decision because you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
To manage your cash flow.
I'm getting for Foo Fighters.
I'm thinking about going to see them in the next few weeks.
Or soon.
I haven't decided yet.
Hotch's is floating out there. Where's the concert?
It's at the Olympic Stadium in London. It's here.
I love how measured you can be about decisions like that. Can I afford to go to this concert? Can I not afford to go to this concert? The impulsivity in me. Go on, don't care. I'll worry about it later. So I need to adopt a little bit more of the measured approach.
You know, it's interesting because I think with money, we tend to go one of two ways, usually, which is the impulsive spending. I've got it, so I'll spend it. Or think I have it, so I'll spend it. Or I don't know if I should spend. I don't want to be struggling. I don't want to be behind. And my mindset has been a little the latter. Through my childhood history, through losing businesses and homes, it's stung a little bit. So now being cautious, you can be too cautious, but you don't live. So I needed a little bit more of your energy, which I do have now. I probably am a little bit more cautious, kind of around the middle where I want to be now.
It's so interesting, like how those dynamics can play out, because I would definitely be more on the impulsivity side. I'll worry about the how. After, my husband would be much more like you, very measured, had background history that has meant that he has to be very careful and measured around money. So it's probably good that we can balance each other out, that he can be sensible and measured and I can be the one that's fun.
It's a harmony, isn't it?
It's harmony. On my own, there'd be all sorts of chaos going on. So thank goodness. I'm wondering, just with that conversation that we've had, your background, your history, your experience with money, and mine and my husband, like how much it affects how we feel about money, how we feel about fee setting, about managing money. And I'm sure you must see this whenever you're working with like therapist coaches, you must see their money story comes in a lot. And I was wondering, is there any kind of common themes that you see coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. And it massively influences us all. For many therapists and many people, money is in our shadow and it's not something we look at. And when we don't look at it, we're driven by unconscious behavior. We work too hard and earn much more than we need to meet our lifestyle needs because we're scared that we won't have enough. We have a poverty mindset. Or we believe we need to spend it because if we don't spend it, it will get taken away. And with that, not earning enough because we spend it, it all comes into play. So many different routes can get us there. A lot of things I see probably as common themes with therapist coaches is some shame, actually, in feeling they don't know how to handle money, or that they've not looked at it and they've been running along for a while and they don't really know how the finances are. And whenever I'm met with a theme like that, I feel really sad, actually, because there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to hide there. we're not taught how to do this. We're not shown how to manage a business or how to manage numbers. It's only just starting to come into some schools now. It's such an essential life skill.
Totally. Couldn't agree more. I was actually listening to, I think, Deborah Needon from Dragon's Den. Lady from Dragon's Den. I was listening to her on Radio 1, I think it was, recently, and she's just written a book, and it's aimed at teenagers for how to manage, how to have I think it's called literally How to Have a Good Relationship with Money. And why does she have to write a book about that? Like, why are we not taught this as part of the curriculum? What an amazing book she's writing. And I have 2 teenage boys. I'm definitely going to buy it for them, and I'm going to read it. I'll read it first and then I'll pass it on to them. But it really should be an essential skill.
It should. And that's probably the second theme I see most with therapists is I'm not good with money. I'm not good with numbers. I don't know how to do it, so I've not done it.
Yeah.
But actually, that's not been the case when I've worked with these therapists. They are good with numbers. They are good at looking at what's there. They just haven't been shown a way to do it. So when they do that, they don't know the process. They don't know where to start. And it becomes overwhelming. It becomes too much, which is probably one of the biggest benefits I can offer, which is holding your hand as you go through that, showing you step by step some things you can consider, and showing you it's not that scary. Actually, it can be quite fun but certainly satisfying and easing of anxieties that come up by facing it, by looking at it. And there's often so this is the number of clients I need to meet my lifestyle needs or aspirations. I was well off. I thought it needed to be half that, or I thought it needed to be double that, or whatever your psychology comes up to how much you think it should have been. But by really grounding it and giving you a benchmark, a target, really settles the nerves, which allows you to be the therapist you are, the therapist you want to be.
Absolutely. And also have that kind of alignment that you've done that work. You have that healthier relationship with money. You understand why you're charging what you're charging. And so you're able to show up for your clients and also be okay with that. Because I think there can be such a conflict with therapists and charging.
Yeah.
They've been so used to volunteering, they've been so used to maybe working in low-cost counselling organisations and things like that, that when we step into private practice and we're the person taking the money off the client, there can be so much internal conflict around that, and actually doing that money mindset kind of work with you would be so important.
Yeah, absolutely. There's all that history about what we charge or don't charge really takes its toll, and it sets us up for a real challenge, actually. And the amount of time we spend training, studying, volunteering, and then when we're on our own, what do we do? How do we translate? There's a little bit of a gap. And knowing our worth is important, but then feeling like we're charging to help someone, I know can be a hard point on people's their conscience. And that's the part we have to address. Because we didn't train and we didn't do this, who would? So we do need to be paid and valued for our service. And the same as the arts. And I love the Dead Poets Society quote. I can't remember exactly what it is, but something like law, engineering, accountancy are noble pursuits, but art, poetry, love is what we stay alive for. And we should be valuing those equally and paying and prepared to pay equally for those. And I think it's similar with therapy as well. The service we offer, the good we do, and the difference we make to a quality of life. Hence my blood phobia. It changed my life through going to therapy to get rid of something that was really holding me back. That was invaluable.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. There is great value in what we are doing. And also the point that I have to reiterate a lot with people that I work with is that the clients are choosing. They're choosing to work with you. It's not you're in an organization and they just get referred and they've no choice. They're working with you and it's low cost or whatever. Like they've sought you out. They've read your profile, gone to your website. They like you. You offer a specialism that they really need help in. So they are valuing that and they are wanting you for that. They're choosing you. So we need to also accept that rather than get stuck in the, oh my God, it's so bad that I'm charging for this.
It is, and I can't remember the exact research, but there was research done that when a client doesn't pay for therapy, they don't get as much out of it. They don't invest as much in it.
Yeah.
And if we even go a bit further, when we undercharge, if we try and lowball or compete or be competitive, we can put some clients off because they look at the fee and think automatically a fee equates to quality, experience, and you're too cheap. You're probably not going to be that good. So I'm going to go for someone who's a bit more. So there's always going to be clients that meet your fee where you're at. You just have to choose a fee that feels right for you and what you need to meet your lifestyle needs within that. So moral, ethical, and financial considerations all need to come into play.
And that, what you've just described, I have absolutely been through that whole journey myself. So I first started private practice 12 years ago when I first set up. Because I was new, I thought I must make myself cheaper. And I was offering like discounts left and center, bulk booking, and all of that kind of stuff. And what I was attracting were just not the right type of clients. And it progressed over the years, but it was a few years ago that I made the decision that I wanted to restructure, change how I work with a smaller caseload, have a higher fee to accommodate having a smaller caseload. And there was such a difference in the type of clients that I was attracting when I went from the fee that I was charging to the higher fee. In terms of investment, like I very rarely would get cancellations. I'd never get no-shows. And I can see just the level of investment from the client is completely different. So that statement, there is a price point that's right for everyone, is something I reiterate over and over again, that our money story might tell us that there isn't clients out there willing to pay that fee, but that's our stuff.
Yeah.
Our story. And the reality is that there are plenty of people out there that are willing. It's whether they connect with you and your marketing and all of that kind of stuff. But there absolutely is a price point for everyone.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And it mirrors my own experience as well. And it's about trusting yourself. It's about knowing what you need to make your business work. And I also offer concessions. Interestingly, not many people ask for them, but if they do, it's because I know they really need it. And with that, I offer people to choose the fee within a range for my service. And people generally do. From the bottom end of the bracket to the top end of the bracket, I get the full spectrum. So I song financial empowerment to my clients before they start, which gives me a lot of information about them and a lot of information about their relationship with money. It's like we'll come in straight away. And if someone asks for concessions, which doesn't happen very often, I ask them what fee they can afford. Usually only go a little bit lower than what I've got there. And I usually say yes as well. So there's a lot around you knowing your boundaries. And how many times does a therapist say this? I'm just going to add on around finances. And then knowing if it's in a range, you're happy, you're okay. If it's a bit below that, what's your view? What's your stance? And for me, I'm happy to have 2 concessions, I think, in my practice at a time to manage it loosely.
Yeah.
And it very rarely goes more than that. Then trying to manage all these different aspects, but you have to know your boundaries, your financial boundaries first.
Out of curiosity, do you advertise your concessionary fees, or is it just if people ask?
I say my range is this, and then, oh, that's a good question. I can't remember. If I was writing it right now, I would say concessions are available upon request.
Yeah.
I would do that on my website.
Yeah. Just leave it to the client then potentially to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I was very interested in how people handle it. Some people do offer concessions, some people don't offer concessions. How do you market that? How do you prioritize? Like, how many concessions can you afford to have? And what if your concession spots are full? And
it is. And that's the key point from a financial point of view. So, like most therapists, I suspect, we want to help people. And I want to offer part of my practice that can do that. But I also know what the average fee is that I need to charge my client portfolio in order to make my number of X clients a week make my finances work. So I know from the calculations that 2 concessions in my portfolio be about right. More than that, then I can't do that. So if a third one comes along, then I say I'm sorry, my concession spots are full. I can let you know when we come available, or I can offer a referral thing. And I get a mixture. Some people wait, some people ask for the referral. But I'm very clear I need to make my finances work, which means when I turn up as a therapist, I don't have any noise around the fee, whether I'm happy with the fee or not. I'm just here because I've looked after my own finances, work, and I've put that process in place. And it relieves me of a whole load of pressure.
yeah,
Voice.
yeah. You're talking about like the energy around money, and I'm wondering how much might our energy around money impact clients in terms if I'm stuck in deprivation mindset, or if I'm in the panic of I need more, how might that potentially affect a client coming and engaging with us or working with us?
Definitely plays out, doesn't it? It's through the words we use or an unconscious energy, but it's out and it becomes part of the therapy. The best thing we can do to work with that is look at our finances, look at our views on money, practice, and say, hey, I'm a safe pair of hands. I'm comfortable with what I'm doing. So if there's something here, we transmit that through our energy, our aura.
Yeah.
It allows that safe space for it to emerge. We feel it because we've done the work, and we ask, well, is it okay for me to ask about me? I noticed maybe there is something happening for you there. Or how do you feel about it? And bring it in, because it's a huge, often untapped source of information within the therapy process. I remember seeing a documentary on BBC with Anne Robinson, I think, of all people, looking at all the different views people have on money. And there was a great quote, something around what I was trying to say earlier, but around how we spend our money is so unique. It's the biggest statement of who we are and how we live our life, conscious or unconscious. And let's make that conscious. It's a huge source of our energy flow because we spend a lot of time with money. We have to survive in this world. So let's be conscious about it. Let's make it all meet up and model that to our clients.
That's brilliant. I love that advice. And I'm thinking about clients that I work with and how I guess they are driven a lot by the feeling of not enoughness, more about capability wise, that the feeling of not enoughness is driving them to invest more and more in CPD and training and all of that kind of stuff, when actually maybe what they need to invest in is working on the business side of it, the finance side of it, the money mindset side of it, like working on all of that side of it rather than the CPD. But that's where the energy goes.
It is, and it's almost where imposter syndrome fuses. And when we feel inadequate, we try and make ourselves adequate with more, usually training. And I do enjoy a good training as well, so I need to be careful not to be hypocritical. But there is something about the grounding in your soul, and we've all made it through a training process, a rigorous training process. We've all delivered successful client sessions, and we seem to forget that at some point when money comes into the equation. And it's a huge game changer. So if we can work on grounding that a little bit more, with that then becomes a value in of self. Some of that is through a stark reality of, this is what I need to meet my lifestyle needs. And this is my essential. This is my important and optional. And this is just brilliant.
We fighter.
Where do we go? And do I want to be on the Netflix and Suit level all my life? Or do I want to be on the Foo Fighter level much more? Yeah. Let's manage that, let's value ourselves. We've invested in ourselves. Our clients have invested in us. It's a confidence.
That's brilliant. So many pearls of wisdom that you have shared in this podcast. Be so interesting. And I know people listening are going to take so much from it. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Maybe just to wrap up, if you could maybe give a little overview of your services, like the kind of work that you do, either one-to-one or workshops, like what services you have to offer that people listening might be interested in.
Thank you. So it falls into probably 3 broad categories. One of them is I offer a workshop, taking us through a variety of things to consider, done at a pace, which gets through the material. I offer a one-to-one coaching service, which is tailored to what you bring, which is number 2. And 3, I offer some tools to help, whether that be spreadsheets to help calculate the number of clients you need, or whether it be the full-on record-keeping, macro-based document that I have, which I really enjoy, which says about me. Workshop, one-to-one coaching, and tools available to support business decision-making.
Super. I will share any links or anything that you have in the show notes on the podcast, but just to let people know if they want to go and find you now, where can they find you?
Yeah, so email is best. I also have a website. So my website is Matthew Vickers Psychotherapy, or Matt Vickers Psychotherapy. And my email is matt@adam.com. That's routes to come to me.
Perfect. I will put it in the show notes below, but just for people listening, if they want to make a little mental note of that and go and check you out, they can. So thank you so much for chatting with me today. It was a brilliant conversation.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for asking such great questions.
So thanks for tuning in today. If you would like to learn more about my services, please head over to my website. The address is www.theenrichpractice.com, and I am so passionate about helping counsellors and therapists to make a real impact, and I would be delighted to help you on your private practice journey. And if you found this episode helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you could share it with other people that might benefit. But until next time, take care.